If I were to ask you what you wanted to be when you grow up, what would you say? Is it the exact thing that you're doing now? My guess is probably not. What we dream about in life often does not become the thing that we do.
You live in reality. You got nothing.
Either life gets in the way, we make the wrong choices, or we just simply didn't have a choice at all. It really doesn't matter, the list goes on and on and on. And when I sat down and watched Severance for the first time, it felt like it was talking directly to me, slapping me in the face, showing me a dark reality that frankly, I didn't want to see. A reality that no one wants to see. A reality where people become things that they just don't want to be, either by their choice or by no choice at all.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
And I've seen a lot of TV and movies over the years. Great ones, amazing ones, but they never have captured this aspect of life so well. I mean, there are endless layers and lore about Severance, but the main theme of the show and the uncomfortable feeling that it gives you, I just can't get out of my head. This isn't just a sci-fi horror, it's so much more. It's a mirror that shows you what you could become if you make the wrong choices. Let me explain. But first, I need to give you a little context. What is this show even about? Well, to quickly recap, Severance takes place in a world not much different than ours. It's essentially identical. The only difference is there's a company called Lumen. And in Lumen, they have a place called the Severed Floor. What's the Severed Floor, you might ask? Well, good question. Lumen invented a procedure called Severance, and what they do is they put a chip in your head. And every time you go down the elevator to work, that chip activates, severing your memories, creating an alternate version of yourself. This version is essentially you, just without your memory. So, not exactly you. Or maybe it is you. I mean, this plot point alone opens a can of worms. I mean, what does it really mean to be you without your memories? Aren't you just your memories? The point is, there's a version of you at Lumen that doesn't know what you do on the outside, and you don't know what you do on the inside of Lumen. As the show puts it, there's an innie and there's an outie. The innie being doomed to only be conscious at work, waking up every day in Lumen's elevator. Essentially, a slave.
My innie lives his own life, and as a result, I get to live mine.
But minus all the sci-fi horror, this show's really just about identity. Not just the obvious identity struggles that you would have not having any memories, but the identity of everyone, not just the severed. Who are we really? And how does corporations, money, grief, and survival change all of that?
Where am I?
Okay, so sometimes when a new hire is adjusting to a severed space, we help by bringing them here to the stairwell to experience the transition viscerally.
Oh no, I'm trying to leave.
No. It's all part of the process. If you want to spin around and head back in, that should be that.
So what does this mean for you, me, and the characters in the show? Well, let me break down one of my favorite scenes from the show. A scene for me that embodies the very philosophy that the writers are trying to imbue. So if you haven't seen the show and you don't want anything spoiled, now would be your time to click off. They aren't major spoilers, but they get into some plot points. So watch the show and come back to this exact timestamp. Now to get into it, Dylan, one of the main characters of the show, gets fired from Lumen, and he's looking for a new job. He's going through the interview process. And then we get this beautiful, awkward exchange.
May I ask about benefits?
There's a coffee maker.
I meant healthcare benefits.
Oh, sure, yes, of course, for you, your family.
Okay, great, yeah. You know, I think this is going to be a really great fit for me, Mr. Saliba. You know, ever since I was a kid, I've always felt like doors...
How old?
You know, sorry?
How old were you when you knew you loved doors?
5.
If you could be any kind of door, what would it be?
Pocket.
Interesting.
Yes.
Tell me more.
Well, you're, you know, doing your door thing, and then when you're not needed, you can just
tuck yourself away. Flat finish or eggshell?
semi-gloss.
That's hot.
For me, this is artfully captured. I mean, there's a bunch of awkward remarks, and then there's this flat-out lie to Mr. Saliba. I mean, it's just not a genuine human interaction. Loving doors since I was 5. It's comedic, but it reflects things we do in real life. It's a sophisticated game we play, a game that's called self-presentation. The philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre spoke about this. He said that we often act in bad faith just for the sake of aligning closely with someone, trying to get along with them. I mean, we all like to be liked to a certain extent. We're all humans. It's literally in our DNA. Oftentimes, this is ramped up to 1,000 when it comes to jobs. I mean, this is our livelihood we're talking about. Being disliked could mean you don't get a job, you don't get the raise you need, or even worse, you get fired. I felt when Mr. Saliba said he just wants to tuck himself away, it's almost a nod to that. The whole interaction is unnatural, corporate. It seems like the dialogue was made by AI, but every day in the world, we have interviews that happen just like that. It feels like they're playing some kind of game. And it all seems to be going well until he looks at his job history. And then he notices
A lot of short-term employment. And then Lumen.
Yes.
And they make their doors in-house. It's fucking hubris.
Yeah, I was a severed employee, so.
You're a severed.
Yes. Yeah, I was. But, you know, it's just me here, and I'm...
Well, Mr. George, thanks for coming in.
What?
We'll consider your application thoroughly.
That's it? Just because I'm severed?
Like I said, we'll consider your application thoroughly.
You're not considering me at all. That's discrimination.
We need a certain kind of person here, Mr. George, not a certain kind of two people. I mean, what do you think this is, a carpet factory?
What?
You want to circumcise your brain, that's your business. But it doesn't mean I have to hire you. And personally, I think it's abhorrent.
Mr. Saliba is disgusted by Dylan, that he would shut off his brain at work, not be himself.
To just shut your brain off half the time.
But why? Is he not being inauthentic himself? I mean, that's what it seems like, right? I mean, he's literally trying to relate to Dylan through doors.
He was a door-to-door salesman.
I mean, I get you're a door factory manager, but come on, no one is that into doors. Mr. Saliba finds himself self-presenting, except he's been doing it for so long that he's forgotten who he is. That's what the show is really trying to tell you. Severed people change who they are because they have no choice. They've gone through a procedure, something they just simply can't control. But what's crazy is it seems the unsevered people in this world choose to do the same. The job slowly erodes who they are, making them inauthentic, robotic, AI-like. He's most likely disgusted with Dylan because he sees himself in him. He even says that, but he only mentions the good, and he realizes he sees the bad as well. They are the pocket door, tucking their minds away at work, their subconscious, back into the recesses of their mind. So what does this really mean in real life? I mean, what could we really take away from this? Well, this sounds corny, but I promise you it's true. When you pursue something that's inauthentic to yourself, something that goes against your gut feeling, well, you lose something immaterial about you. It's a reason that people lose their childlike wonder and grow up. I mean, if you've ever scrolled through Instagram too, you'll find there's a million videos of corporate jargon. No child understands that one day they'll probably end up talking like that, saying some unnatural phrase like, let's put a pin in it, or ducktail the conversation, something that just doesn't feel human. You're not going to a bar and going to talk like that, so why are you talking like that at work? Through sheer brute force, they go against their better judgment, against their soul. They forcibly self-present, mold themselves to their environment. The scariest part is real people choose to go through this self-lobotomized path, and they scarily don't even need a chip from Lumen. Not to add on a sad note, but I will say this show is turning out to be amazing. One of my favorite shows of all time. Maybe number one. If you haven't watched it, please watch it. This isn't an ad. I genuinely love the message. I think it's getting realer and realer as the days pass. And the fiction in the show is starting to become, well, nonfiction.